So this is class 145 in the Golden Doves. Welcome to Torah Andalus. For those of you who want to study Torah, not just in a traditional way, which is based on the Chokhmah, based on the Hachamim of the Gemara and the Tannaim, the Emoraim, the living traditions of Am Yisrael, but also this is a channel where we want to exclude people who are not interested in serious study. So if you're looking for a quick tidbit, not for you, this channel. If you're looking for real serious learning where you can perhaps learn something new, be forced to exercise your mind, then you're welcome to stay and make the effort. So here goes. We're on page 81 in the Golden Doves, and we were discussing negative knowledge and how we use language when applied to God in a negative fashion. And Rambam points out the following. This is now a quote from the Moreh Nevuchim. How then would the situation of our mind be when our mind, intends to perceive what is absolutely separate from their substance? So, for example, he was talking about how in those days it was very difficult to understand astronomy because knowledge of astronomy was, of course, very limited. And then he says that, if you want to describe something about the substance that the stars is made of, because of the limitations of even language, we would have to use the language we do have in a negative fashion, right? You wouldn't be able to say things directly about the star. You would be able to say the star is not made of water, it's not solid, it's right, and in this way you would try to at least negate certain things about the star. So Rambam says, if that's the case with the stars, how would it be the case with respect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Who is completely separate from any matter. Like the stars, you can say, well, it's matter, but it's a different type of matter. It's right. What would you say? And when I said it's not solid, I was referring to whatever the scientific thinking or the understanding of the stars was back then. I'm not commenting on what the stars actually are, of course, right? But the point being that if in describing the stars, which are physical entities, we need to use language negatively in the days of Rambam, well, how would you discussing that's completely non-physical, right? One who is categorically incomposite, right? First of all, there's no components to God. It's not like this phone, which has many different parts, right? Or it's not like this table, which has this side of the table and that side of the table, right? And theoretically it could be separated, right? God is none of that. Of necessary existence. Furthermore, everything that exists because it was created. It relies on other things to continue to exist. God is the necessary, right? Without any cause. There was nothing that caused God's existence. Everything else was brought into existence. And that's why when you look at things, you can study the things and you see the particular scientific rules that allow those things to exist as they exist. So those scientific rules are a predicate for the existence of anything, right? God is Ehad. He's only one because there's no scientific rules that are the predicate for his existence because he's the creator, not the created. Right. And to whose nature, in addition to his perfect essence, no ma'anak would be relevant. So any word I use, and the deeper, or rather, what the word points out to semantically, any word in our language would be inapplicable to God. Right? As mentioned before, the intent of this perfection is to deny to him any imperfection. Even when we say, Hasur Tamim Paolo, he's perfect. So, again, we don't mean that he's perfect. This iPhone 14 or that's iPhone 15 is perfect, right? We don't mean perfection in that sense, right? We mean he's not imperfect, right? Because the very notion of perfection insinuates that it could be imperfect, but God cannot be anything other than perfect. So his perfection is of a different category. One about whom nothing could be perceived except his quiddity alone. The only thing you can perceive about God is that he exists. So you can sense his presence in the case of Gilui Shekhinah, like in Ma'amad al-Sinai, right? And that quiddity is an existent with whom none of the existent things to which he gave existence can be compared. But even when we say that we feel God's presence, or we feel that God exists, but the existence of God is different than the existence of anything else. So even that experience of his existence, it's a different type of experience. I experience his phone, I see it, I feel it, right? You experience me, you see me in the camera, you hear my voice. The existence of God, which when it is perceived, is a wholly different category of existence. And that's why after Eov experiences God, nothing matters anymore. It's such an unbelievable, new experience, fulfilling experience, that it doesn't even matter all the things that happen to him. Right? None of them, his creatures, can partake with him in any ma'ana whatsoever. So there is no point of reference between God and us. There was no plurality in him, right? As we said, there's nothing God is made of, no plurality, and no impediment to giving existence to others. God brings existence to other things. He can bring existence to whatever he so wishes. His relation to the universe is that of a captain to his boat. That's an amazing, amazing analogy. So imagine there's a boat, there's stormy oceans, and God is navigating, the captain is navigating the boat through the stormy oceans. That's a mind blow. But this too is not a real relation, nor a true comparison, of course, right? It merely intends to give some direction to our thoughts. It gives us a way to understand Ma'aseh Merkava to a certain extent, right? And teach us that He, the Almighty, leads all that is, meaning that He gives them extension and guards their order adequately. So the same way the captain of the boat is always looking at the welfare of the boat and what needs to be done, and is looking at all the details. So God does that, right? But of course, that analogy itself is limited, right? That's the end of the quote from Harambam. As differential, right? Because negative knowledge is differential knowledge. It's not this, it's not that, it's not that. Negativity expresses a fundamental semiological principle. Saussure showed that by itself, the sign would have no signification, right? Signs only have signification relative to other signs. Differentiation and opposition are required for the acquisition of value. So the word dog, cat have value because the dog is everything but the cat, and the cat is everything but the dog, and the cat is everything but the color purple, right? Well, actually, I'm sorry. I completely misspoke that. No. The dog and the cat, the signs of the dog and the sign of the cat. So what I meant to say is that the sign of the dog doesn't represent any other thing. It doesn't represent the cat. It doesn't represent the color purple. It doesn't represent the table, right? Right? And similarly, the cat doesn't represent the dog or any of the other things. So there's a certain opposition and differentiation between these signs. A term derives its value from its opposition to all other terms. Thus, negativity is simultaneous with difference and value. Concepts are purely differential and defined not by their positive content, but negatively by their relations with the other terms of the system. That's crazy, right? What is a dog, right? So the sign dog, right? So the sign dog is that sign which is which excludes all other signs but dog, right? And every other sign excludes every other sign outside of itself but what it is. And hence what the sign dog represents. Their most precise characteristic is in being what the others are not. So we say, so the point being here, that we talk about negative knowledge. And truly, to a certain extent, all knowledge we have is at some level negative knowledge, is at some level differential knowledge. I understand the sun, it's a star. It's different than the other stars in so much as it happens to be our star, but it's a star. But what is a star? So a star perhaps is not a planet, and a planet perhaps is not a meteorite, and a meteorite is not a antenna, and an antenna is not a bee. So you see, all knowledge, we have this matrix of different concepts, each standing in opposition and each different than every other concept, and we build this matrix based on the differentiations between the various components, signs within the matrix. And that's pointed further down to Saussure. So all semiotic knowledge is a type of negative knowledge. Again, their most precise characteristic is in being what the others are not. So we will continue.